Jesus. My team go hard. My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. We about to go far.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Fervently Creations Christian Talk Show. This is a show where we like to gospel and not gossip. Listen, there's so many shows and so many things in social medias and stuff where people are just spending all their time talking about other people. So here's the thing. Why don't we come together and start talking about God? Or why not talk about what you're doing in the kingdom? What are you doing outside of the four walls of the church? What I always tell people, and I open up with every show on, is to remember that there is 5 gospels. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you. And sometimes the only one that they pay attention to is the last one I mentioned. That's right, that's you. And so how is it that you are actually showing people the gospel? What are you doing? Are you gospeling? Are you gospeling? Are you gossiping? That's the question for today. Are you gospeling or are you gossiping? You know, and a lot of times we spend time gossiping about other people, and we do not realize that as we're gossiping and talking about people, that we're tearing them down. We tear down their self-esteem. We tear down their self-worth. We tear down what it is that God has actually said about them because of what we have opened our mouth and how we're putting our mouth on other people. We have not mastered as Christians on how to gospel. You know, once it comes to it, we're talking about people inside the church, outside of the church, and it's became something that is so normal, but it is something also that God is frowned upon. But so I just want to encourage everyone. Take time, and once you begin to talk, once you begin to open your mouth, ask yourself, is this gospel or is this gossip? So that is just a quick question I wanted to pose. I don't know where that came from. It just flowed out that way. And so, hey, that's what we're doing on today. Are you gospeling or are you gossiping? But first, I do want to speak to those that have been in a situation, because, you know, we always open up with a Bible verse, but those that have felt like, because how people have gossiped about them, how people have torn them down, and how they have made their spirits low, they make it to where it's hard for you to communicate. It's hard for you to even interact with other people out of fear. Listen, the Bible has something to say to you, and I'm going off of Timothy 1:7. I want to say it's 1 Timothy. I didn't put 1 Timothy up there, but 1 Timothy 1:7 says, God did not give us a cowardly spirit, but a spirit of power, love, and good judgment. Listen, you have to stop cowering down to certain things and begin to stand up in boldness. Begin to stand up in your fierceness. Begin to stand up in the true identity in which God has called you to. He did not call us to be timid. He did not call us to be fearful, and he did not call us to be cowardly. A lot of times what happened is that once we come over into the kingdom, right, we once we're in the world, we all rah and, you know what I'm saying, I wish somebody would, and this, that, and another. But once it comes up once we come over into kingdom, now we decide to be a little bit coward. We lose our fierceness, we lose our self-power, we lose our self-love, and we don't make so much good judgment on stuff. We stop discerning the spirit of people or whatever. And so that is what happens. So in this one, he says, God did not give us a cowardly spirit, but a spirit of power. Where is your power? Where are you utilizing the power that God has given you? Are you utilizing the love that God has given you? And that's not only towards other people, but self-love. Are you loving yourself the way that God has told you to love? Or do you have a spirit of love for yourself? A lot of times we reject ourselves because of what other people have said about us. A lot of times we begin to start self-projecting. That's another thing we do, right? We self-project our own feelings off on other people, or so because of what we feel about ourselves, because we've been torn down so much. So I want to just encourage you today to utilize the spirit of power, love, and good judgment. Before we go on any further, I do want to see what our guest has to say on this verse. I'm telling you, powerful, dynamic woman. You are going to love this interview today. I'm looking forward to it. But before we go into interviewing her, let's gospel a little bit and let's talk about the word. So I'm going to bring up our guest for today, Dr. Wendy Rhodes. How are you doing?
Hello, how are you? It is great to be here. Thank you for having me on your show today.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting the invite. My question to you is, what do you feel about 1 Timothy 1:7? God did not give us a cowardly spirit, but a spirit of power, love, and good judgment. How does this verse speak to you? I'm sorry, 2 Timothy 1:7.
Listen, this verse right here says so much. First off, it says to stand in your power, love because God commanded us to love, and to use sound judgment. Use sound judgment. Don't just go off of, consult God. With everything that you do, consult God. Ask God, what should I do? Don't go off of the way that you usually would react. Go off of what God says for you to do. But stand strong. Stand strong in what God says for you to do. That's what I feel about that verse.
Stand strong. Stand strong. You know what? And a lot of times we are weakened in the knees.
Yes.
We are weakened in the knees by what other people say about us or what we feel about ourselves. You know, like a lot of us have lost our self-confidence.
Yes.
And so I mean, this verse, sometimes you can read one Bible verse in one season of your life, and it speaks one way to you, and then you can read it in another season of your life, and it'd be one word that kind of just jumps out at you, and you're just like, wait a minute, you know. But another thing is, you know, for those that pay attention, that I don't use the names of God translation. I love looking at Bible verses in different translations, but I picked this one because it said cowardly.
Mm-hmm.
Cowardly. Like he didn't call us to be cowards. And are we cowering down to the enemy, the attacks of the enemy? Are we cowering down to the opinions of others? And are we cowering down to our own opinions about ourselves? Where's your fight at? Where's your
And the other thing that we can cower down to is our past.
Come on.
Cowering down to our past. Sometimes we take our past and wear it like it's a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
But where is your faith? Where is your faith? What does it say in, I think it is in Joshua, where it says to be of good courage, or be encouraged, be of good courage.
Have I not commanded you?
Yes, there it is. I'm like, I know it's in there. I know it's in there.
Hold
It's
on.
like so
We
many
don't find
times
it
we
for the
can't
people.
move
Keep
forward
talking.
because of it. We can't move forward because if we're not encouraged and we're not pulling on God for his strength, we have to pull on God for our strength. That's where it comes from. When we are weak, he is definitely strong. That's where we get it from.
Yeah.
I can remember so many times being weak myself. I can remember so many times just being weak myself. And as they say, just, just not even, just feeling like I just couldn't go on and I just couldn't move forward.
Yeah.
But so many times I've had to cry out to God and say, I don't have it in me. I just don't have it in me. And then I had to pull on Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Now, I may not have been able to see myself be strong at that time. And I may not have been able to see my hand in front of my face because of the tears falling down my face and through my eyes at the time. But when faith kicks in, and when that mustard seed kicks in, that's a whole nother monster to tackle right there.
Yeah, it is. It is. And sometimes once you look back over, You look back over your life and you realize like, wow, I don't know how I got through that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I was strong. Or sometimes you realize your strength.
What the
That
old
was
folks say, how I got over.
how I got over. How I got over.
Yeah.
Really, this is how I got over. And then you begin to see not so much just the strength of God, that God would never leave or forsake you, but you're able to see, wait a minute, I'm stronger than I thought I was. I'm more courageous than what I thought I was. I can get through more than and it gives you that extra. I always use the analogy of lifting weights. I bench press 120, and I hit that 3 times, and now I realize, wait a minute, I can push 120 easy now. Like, and then but then he said, okay, let me add 5 more on each side, and you like, but
you
it keeps
gotta push through it.
Yeah, you got to push through, and it keeps building your faith. It keeps our once you're on a treadmill or elliptical, you said, okay, I made it 15 minutes. For those who struggle, like I made it 15, and then you realize, okay, I could do 15 minutes easy on the elliptical. Let me push it up. Let me try to go to 30, or let me try to go to 20. And we continue to build our faith, and we get stronger and stronger, and our courage becomes stronger and stronger. So once we walk up to the machine, and I'm saying machine, but once you walk up to the next test, once you walk into the next season, you're not as fearful, you're not as timid, you're not as cowardly as you were before, because I didn't conquer this thing before. I didn't been on this machine before. I didn't been in this place before, and so now I know how to handle it once my money a little funny. Now I know how to handle it once my kids are acting up. Now I know how to handle it once my husband came home and it seemed like he has an attitude about something, and I ain't did nothing to him. Something about now I know how to handle it. Why? Because I didn't been through it before. I didn't lifted this weight before.
Yeah. But then think about this too. This is another one to think about. Now you're talking about the elliptical where you increase your time on the elliptical. But what happens when you move away from that elliptical and you don't use that elliptical enough? Then what we have to do, reactivate our faith all over again.
Have to reactivate it.
And you may have to start back over at that 5 minute, then make yourself go back up to the 15 minute. And it does not matter how many times you have to reactivate it, just as long as you know you got that source.
See, let me tell y'all. See, now she's talking about me. She don't even know she's talking about, because I stopped walking for like 2 weeks. But on Tuesdays, I used to walk 7 miles. On Tuesdays, I would walk. And so I asked my husband, I said, well, Friday, Veterans Day, and I hadn't been to the park and walked in a while. Will you walk with me? He said, you doing the 7 miles? I said, I ain't did 7 miles in a while. I might have to start off with 4. Because now I have to reactivate the faith, because honestly, the 7 miles came by accident, because I didn't know that 1 lap around this whole thing was set 7 laps. I did it prophetically, thinking, hey, it was some things that I was warned against during the time this summer. It was some things I was warned against. It was some things that, and I said, I don't know if I can make it around here 7 times and then shout a victory shout, but I do know that I could pray for a long time. And so I prayed in the spirit, and I walked and walked and walked. I prayed in the spirit and walked.
Are we gonna keep on talking about Joshua or what? Because we keep hopefully we pull Joshua up in here again. See,
like, and I walked it, but now it's just like, I gotta go out there Friday, and I'm like, I don't know if I can, because now I have to reactivate my faith to say I can make it 7 miles. Yeah. I stopped being consistent in what I was doing.
Hey, you gonna turn it to the little engine that could. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. Then you do it, and you're like, oh, I did. Yes.
I have to text him like I did my 7 miles. So my dad, listen, I actually know our guest today, but Dr. Wendy Rhodes, would you please explain to the people, or introduce to the people who they have the pleasure of sitting and talking with and listening to talk today?
Yes. As she introduced me, I am Dr. Wendy Rhodes, and I am a 5-time best-selling author. I am CEO and founder of Self-Love Redefined and Beautifully Integrated with Love. I am an emotional wound care coach and expert that provides a safe and confidential space for women to heal from emotional traumas caused by rape, sexual assault, and domestic violence to experience self-love redefined that's beautifully integrated with love. So the acronym WOUND, WOUND, stands for Women Overcoming Unresolved Issues with Necessity and Determination, so that they will know that you are not your trauma. I take my 20 plus years of nursing, and I take the stages of wounds and compare them to spiritual wounds to bring about healing to the soul. So God has anointed and appointed and authorized me to do his will.
You know what? You said something earlier, and it kind of goes off to what you was just saying there. You said sometimes we become cowards to our past, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people that have been raped, been molested, which kind of my background story. I've been molested by 5 different people, and I've been gang raped twice, all before the age of 18, right? And so I became a coward to my past because I allowed my past to keep me in captivity. I allowed my past to define me. I allowed my past to control me. It controlled how I saw people, until I actually began to release the forgiveness. But it is a wound there, and a lot of times once you hear and once you see like what happens with the people, for is, some of them get, some of the people that are convicted of molestation or rape or whatever, some of them really do get a slap on the wrist, right?
Yes.
And I remember going through a season in life to where I love Law and Order SVU, because I actually seen people that got things a little bit beyond a slap on the wrist. But it was like part of the way that I healed. Like, it was just something annoying. Like, hey, they caught him. They caught him, and this person has to be accountable for what they did. But some of them get a slap on the wrist. But for a lot of people, just like Law and Order SVU on many of the episodes, where people feel as though that's where the story ends. And for the victims and the ones that are overcomers, are the ones that have been the survivors, whatever, that's not where the story ends for you, because you still have to learn your self-worth. They take so much from you, your self-worth, your self-esteem. You have to learn how to actually look at yourself beyond more than just sex, and you have to learn how to engage with sexual activity with your spouse, and it's difficult. It's
Without
difficult.
the triggers.
Without that, it.
Without the triggers. That's why I said you are not your trauma. You are not your trauma.
Right.
I am an overcomer of rape and domestic violence. I was raped by 4 guys at the age of 14. And I went through domestic violence in my marriage for 18 years. And I am an overcomer. And I tell people say, oh, I'm a survivor. No, I didn't just survive. I overcame, because I allowed my forgiveness to show me how to bring about self-love. And it was a redefinition of self-love because of that. It was just a matter of, it took a while. Even when I thought that I had forgave my offender and my abuser, when I thought I did, I really truly didn't. I didn't, because it didn't just end with them. They were just the beginning of it. Because, and I don't know if you want me to just go ahead. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, let's go and say it. At the age of 14, I was raped by a guy that I was so-called dating at the time. He was considered to be one of the pretty boys. Back then they had the long jerry curls and stuff. I had the long jerry curl, the juicy collar, so I had that too. But him and his brothers and cousins, they were all considered to be pretty boys too, because they dressed. They had the long jerry curls and stuff. Guy didn't live that far from me. He lived far from me, but where he was at his cousin's house, which wasn't that far. So I go over there, and I'm thinking that he just wants to be alone with me. And so I end up being raped by those 4 guys. Now, it was, the street lights were on by the time I left there. The street light was on. And So, back then, you can't come in the house when the street lights is on because mama gonna get you. Don't come in my house when the street lights is on. So I feared her more than I feared what had happened to me, or more than I even thought about that, because my mom was a disciplinarian. She was loving, but she was a disciplinarian.
Right.
But what I did is I just walked in the house. Of course, I got put on punishment. Of course, I took it, didn't say anything to her about it. And that was that.
Yep.
So here we go. When I turned 49, I start dealing with it. And I decided to write my first chapter in a book.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing all this time I thought I had forgave them, and even thought I had forgave my ex-husband at the time too. And I get to write in this chapter because I prayed about it and God said, yes, write it. I'm sitting and I'm writing. And as I'm writing, I stop dead in my tracks. And I said, what is wrong with me? And God started showing me, this is going to help you to heal.
Yep.
For you to be able to write it all down, because you still have not faced 14-year-old you.
Yep.
I had to reach back there. 14-year-old me was pretty much sitting over in the corner.
In a corner, curled up. Like I'm telling you, don't go there. Because I see my little girl over there sometimes. She's like this, and she's balled up.
Yes. She's been waiting on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what she waited on? She was waiting for me to cry out for her.
Come on.
I never cried for her.
No.
I never cried for her. I never talked to my mom about her. I never talked to anybody about her. Mm-hmm. She was hurting all those years. So 49-year-old me was technically 14-year-old me.
Yeah.
Until I got a chance to face her and to heal her and to release her. Because the release for her came from forgiving myself for being ashamed,
mm-hmm.
forgiving myself for the guilt, forgiving myself for the anger, forgiving myself all the way around. And it just, that whole thing, I had to forgive myself. But I cried so hard because think about it. That's 35 years worth of tears that was built up. And then you leave yourself so vulnerable even during that time, and you get in a relationship with somebody because you don't feel like you're worthy enough because of everything else that happened to you. So you end up in these jacked up relationships, but yet here I am and I'm writing my story.
Come on.
And I'm crying. And I just said, I forgive myself for holding myself responsible. I forgive myself for the shame. I forgive myself for the guilt. I forgive myself for the anger. I forgive myself.
Yes.
I forgive them, and God forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Come on.
Forgive them. I had to forgive my ex-husband because it's not his fault the family that he was in. It's not his fault the way that he was brought up. It's not his fault the anger that he harbored. It's not his fault.
No.
But I had to forgive myself because I stayed in it long. So I had a list of stuff that I blamed myself for staying in it. I blamed myself for a lot of it. So I had to decompress. And as I decompressed and just let it all out, I was so girl, I took a nap after I got done. After I got done, I took a nap.
It is. Mm-hmm. And once you go through certain traumatic events like that, one of the hardest people to forgive is yourself. And so I remember I began to deal with it. I began to deal with a little bit at times at different points. I dealt with it, but the first thing that I remember dealing with was realizing that I was more than just sex. The only thing about it, I realized it was while I was married, right? And so at this point, I was like, oh, I can say no if I don't want to have sex. And man, it about tore up my marriage because nope, 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 you know. And but through the years, I had to continue to deal with it. And one time in the military, with me being a mechanic, they tried to put me in a unit that was full of just men, right? And I
Mhm.
cannot do that. And so they went. The sergeant major went back and forth, went back and forth for a while. I had, you know, a first sergeant that was fighting for me to keep me in his unit, but the sergeant major was trying to put me in an all male unit, and I had to stand on what we call on a red carpet. I had to stand on a red carpet in parade rest and give him my whole backstory of sexual trauma, of why he could not put me in a unit with all males, how anything could easily trigger me. And so he made me go through counseling. Through the counseling process, one of the things that I had to do was, at the end of it, was write my mom a letter, because the little girl in me during the time needed to hear my mom say, "I'm sorry for not protecting you." And my mom, once I read the letter to her, and she cried, and we stood and held each other and hugged. She said, "I've heard you tell the story before." She said, "But your story has never changed." She said, "And I apologize." And so one thing that I learned, that it was never too late to apologize. And that was the biggest part of my healing. I still had healing that I had to go throughout the years and stuff, because my self-worth was damaged, was wound, right? I had
Mhm.
so many different wounds that was connected to all that trauma, because I was gang raped twice in the same month, the month that I was within a couple weeks of each other. And so, like, it was a lot that I had to go through. But one it wasn't until 2018, 17. Nope, no, no, no. 2017, right before that miraculous healing, that I had released
Mhm.
forgiveness. And once I released forgiveness, I was able to open the door, and I got a physical healing on top of that. Different story, not my interview. And so, so with that, it's just like that forgiveness. And I had, so, I'm sorry. So also, I'm currently working in for my doctorate degree. And as I work for my doctorate degree, one of the things that I'm writing my thesis on is childhood trauma, applying biblical forgiveness to childhood trauma, how it actually heals you and it helps move you into for your adulthood. But a lot of us don't go back and apply the forgiveness, biblical forgiveness, which biblical
Yes.
forgiveness meant to let go. It's just like what you were saying, when you brought up Stephen, and also the word for forgiveness means to let go. It's to
Yes.
you. It's the same word. Once they use the word forgiveness in the Bible, the same Bible verse that we talk about, and we say that Jesus had yielded up his spirit, he gave up the ghost. That same
Mhm.
word is the same word, same Greek word that is used for forgiveness. So that means it's things that have happened to us in our past that we have to let go of. We have to give it up. We have to yield it to God, but we hold
Yes.
on to it, and we keep it in a cave, and we become bonded in a bondage with it. I mean, so biblical forgiveness is hard,
It
and it's
really is. And I'm glad you had mentioned your mom because, like, my mother never knew until that book came out. I called her 2 weeks before the book was published. 2 weeks. And I told her, I said, we need to have a conversation. And because I didn't want her to read it. And then she's like, wait a minute, what is this? You know, but it was so helpful because it was like, she was just like, wow, I didn't know that happened to you.
yeah.
And the conversation with her was different than her reading it.
Mm,
Once she read it, it was a reality to her more
mhm.
so. But my sister called me and said she just cried and she just cried and she just cried and she just wondered why you wouldn't tell her this, that, and the other, right? But my thing is this, I had to apologize to her for
Yeah,
depriving her of the opportunity
to heal, to
to be
comfort the
there for
mother.
me. Yeah, to be there for me.
Yeah.
But in a way, I'm glad I didn't tell her because she'd
Be in
probably be
jail.
still in prison. She's still in prison. She'd still be in prison.
Our
She
mom's
like all
probably
of 5 foot nothing, and she'd be in prison. She'd be in prison. It's probably a good thing I didn't. So
it's probably good. But you know what? And that is something, because a lot of times we hold on to unforgiveness towards our parents and stuff on certain things, and don't even realize that we didn't even give them the opportunity
yeah,
to try to fix it, to comfort us, to be there for us in situations. And like you said with my mom, she held me and she cried, and it was different. And I think that was the door opener
that missing
towards my
piece too.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that little girl finally got comforted. That little
Yeah,
girl
she ain't sitting
found
over in the corner no more.
right. You know what? But I realized when you talk about the little girl in the corner, right? The little girl is in the sometime I think she's out of the corner, and then it'd be other things that I have to go back and realize she's back in the corner because of something different this time.
Hmm. Yep.
And and sometimes it's not the 14-year-old little girl. Sometimes it's the 18-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is sometimes it is with me, it's the rejection from the womb. So sometimes it's the fetus.
Listen, I got to tell you this. I'm going to talk to you about these stages of wounds.
Go ahead, let's go.
We got to get into the stages of wounds because as we talking, you might as well know that you've been talking about my stages. Okay.
Oh, oh, okay. Well, we're gonna write them
So
down. We're gonna do them as you go. Come on.
stage one is a stage one wound is redness and surface. Now, in the natural, now, first off, let me go back to explain exactly what a wound is.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know it as a wound, they know it as a bed sore,
Mhm.
or it could be something surgical. It's just an opening on the skin, and it could be surgical or it could be a bed sore. So in my stage one is redness and surface. So that's in the natural.
Stage
But
one is redness and surface.
and it's on the surface, just on the surface. It's not even open. Not even open. So I consider that to be a closed spirit. In this stage one, you will see anger, bitterness, rejection, shame, and guilt. That's what you'll see there. And the reason why you see it and it's a closed spirit is because people generally act out, but you don't see where they're hurting at because it's so internal and it's closed in, but you always see them acting it out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see it in the way that they express themselves. You see it in the way that they talk. The negativity, it just all
Mhm.
just reeks out, but you don't see it on the outside. It's the stuff that's spewing from the inside out.
That's deep.
Okay.
That's deep. So in my I did a conference one time, and it was called a walk in my shoes. And the conference host asked all of us to wear shoes that represented our walk of life. And I wore one of the long African dresses to where you could not see my shoes, and I had on one high heel and one flat. So you could tell I was walking funny,
Right.
but you couldn't see what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was redness, and you could tell something wasn't right, but it wasn't quite revealed yet. It wasn't open. It was below the surface. And so, yeah, I like that. I
Yeah.
like
A stage two wound is partial thickness. So basically, that could be a scrape. That could be a scrape. You could still do some kind of care plan on there. You can still put like an ointment or something on that. Okay.
okay.
But that is a wounded spirit.
Mm.
This is where you see the mental illnesses, the emotional illnesses. You see that. So they call it's broken skin. You could just, stage two is the
Broken skin.
broken skin. The skin is broken there. So you see a lot of mental illnesses there. And a stage 3. Stage 3 is full thickness that it exposes the tissue. Stage 3 is a broken spirit. So this is full thickness and it exposes the tissue. So this is where you'll find drug abuse, alcoholism, and even prostitution in stage 3. And the reason why I put this as a broken spirit and drug abuse, alcoholism, and prostitution falls in this because of the simple fact that sometimes these are hereditary, but at the same time, when people use drugs or they become alcoholics, people don't trust them anymore. And even when they try to heal from their drug abuse and they go into the drug abuse, the centers for alcohol and different things like that, when they go into those centers, they come out, everybody is happy for them and they want to help them. But so many times they keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then nobody trusts them, which causes them to have a broken spirit. Stage 4 is an open area that is down to the bone. It exposes muscle and the tendon. So it's all the way down to the bone. This is where your rape, molestation, and sexual assault. This is where this lies. And I call this a crushed spirit. The reason why it's a crushed spirit is because when people are raped or molested or have sexual assault, it's something that is unexpected. So when it's unexpected, your spirit is crushed because you have no reason to believe that you deserved this. Everything in you says, I don't deserve this. And so your spirit is crushed because the trust is gone. There is no trust. Most of the time, things that happen with rape, molestation, sexual assault, it usually happen by the hands of somebody that you know or somebody that you're familiar with. There's a final one, and it is an unstageable wound. This is necrosis. It's black, it's necrotic, and I call this a blinded spirit. With a blinded spirit, you have absolutely no idea as to where this came from. So it could be hereditary. It could be because you had mommy daddy issues. It could be because you had a bad marriage. It could be because of a divorce. So you're blinded. You have no idea as to where this came from. But what happens with the blinded spirit is somebody has to be strong enough to break those strongholds in that blinded spirit. So then what happens is with the necrosis of an unstageable wound, you don't peel it off because you don't know what's under there, because there's different stages under there. You could easily peel it off and it be too much of the tissue exposed. But then you have to work that thing, so you have to be very delicate with it just so that it can heal just right. So this is where you may even have your generational curses. Are you strong enough to stand the test of times, to be able to say that you are the one that God has ordained to break those generational curses? Are you the one? Did he send you? Did he send you? Those generational curses is no joke. Like one of the generational curses that I have in my family is teen pregnancy. I was a teen mom. My daughter was a teen mom. My mother was a teen mom. My sisters were all teen moms. But somebody has to break it. Somebody has to break it. And I told my daughter, it stops with her. It stops with her.
Yeah.
And me and her, we had a conversation. I said, it stops with her. It stops. I said, somebody gonna stop. This is gonna stop. And it's like, hey, God, listen, This has been a generational curse. This has been in this family for a long, long time.
Mhm.
And I want my granddaughters to be something. I want them to do what it is that you call them to do without having any baby on their hip as a teenager.
That's
Yeah.
powerful.
But
That's
yeah, those are my stages.
Have you put
Those,
this in a book?
not yet. Not yet. I need
'Cause I
to.
was about to say, where can we get this book? From
Listen, I'm working on it. Trust me, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I would tell you, some people don't understand the supernatural.
right.
They don't understand the supernatural. When God sent me back to work and I became a wound care nurse, I was like, God, you really want me back in this place? My
For a
God,
reason.
you really want me to go back? It was for a reason. But see, had he told me the reason, I probably would. But I end up going back. So what happened is it was a deeper dive into the wounds,
Hmm.
and God started unveiling things to me and showing me how He has given me the He has He has blessed me with the ability to heal.
Yeah.
And so now, because of Isaiah 61, 1 through 3, which is based around this whole thing, it's, you know, to set the captives free, to heal the brokenhearted.
Hmm.
That's what this thing is all about. It's all about God's word. It's not about me. I was at work and God showed me because I had somebody whose wound just would not heal. It was an old man.
Oh,
His feet, he had necrotic heels, but they had busted open and it was a mess and it would stink real bad. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I've been trying to heal this thing and I'm just steady doing the same dressing. And I'm like, what do I do? Happened to walk in his room one day and I just could not contain myself. He was Hispanic. I could not contain myself when I walked in his room. I had tears coming down my face like waterfall. And I was like, why am I crying like this? Like it was just straight waterfall, just
you picked up
waterfalls
on
coming
his
down.
spirit.
And as I walked in the room and I unwrapped his feet, I'm saying to him, I am so sorry because I just felt like it's my responsibility to make sure that this heals.
Hmm.
And God asked me to truly pay attention to the heat that's coming from my hands.
Yes.
My hands
You
were
know
on
exactly.
fire. They were on
Healing.
fire. And so he showed me what to do. And I did exactly what God said to do. And I
Hmm.
prayed over his feet. And I began to put the betadine on there and I started wrapping them. I had to do it every day. And every day I came in there, I prayed over his feet, and I did it. Within a week, his feet were healed
Yeah.
completely. Completely. And
Yeah.
God said, this is what you carry. This is what you carry. And it was another patient, same thing, had been to 2 or 3 different hospitals. And he had like a stage 4. Okay, God, we going in here. We going all in. I dare not go in here without you. I dare not go in here thinking that I'm so such and much
Hmm.
that it's me, because it's not. And I know that it's not me.
Yeah.
So we got work to do. It's so important to stay humble. It's so important for you to not feel like it's you, because it's not.
No.
It's not. It's not you. It's him working through you. And so that's what happened. This lady, she told me, she said, my husband has been to 2 or 3 different hospitals, and I have not seen him look this good.
Yeah.
I have not seen him. And I asked him every time, do you mind if I pray? Do
Mm.
you mind if I pray? And I asked him, do you mind if I pray? She said, oh, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah.
And it's all about just really paying attention to what he has given you. And it's like, I'm a work in progress every day, and we all are. And his mercies are new to us every single day. And it's like, I never want to feel like I'm being so such a much to feel like that is me, because it's not.
It's not.
It's him all day long, not me.
Yes.
But because I know that it's him. Now, I mean, all of this stuff with this wound care and these stages, do you honestly think I would have sat there and really thought about these, putting these spirits with it and all of this stuff? And God said, this is how you're going to heal my people from the inside out. The external wounds, the internal wounds, and the spiritual wounds coincide some kind of way, because healing has to happen from the inside out, not from the outside in. What happens is, when your wound starts to heal from the outside in, you still have to open it back up, because it didn't heal properly.
Right.
Dr. Pimple Popper shows it every single time. When people have the cysts that grow and grow and grow, what she have to do? Cut it open, and what happens? It oozes out. And what happens is, when you get ready to dress that, you have to pack it. So what happens with the packing, you pack it from the inside out. So when you pull the packing out, it starts to heal. It starts to close from the inside out. So what happens is, there's nothing left to be questionable.
Come on.
No area is left untouched.
Come on.
No area is left untouched. Then you finally can go on about your business and say, I'm healed.
You know what? And that is so deep, because a lot of us are walking around, we're even preaching, we're in the pulpits, and we're not healed. We have different stages of our wounds, and that we haven't even addressed yet, that hasn't been properly cared for, because a lot of times we're so busy caring and taking care of everyone else, and we leave our wounds unattended.
Yep. Every time. Every single time.
Unattended. So,
Yep.
that is
I tell
awesome.
people, you are not your trauma. You're not your trauma. You're not your trauma. You self-love redefined. You're not your trauma.
Tell us quickly about that self-love redefined.
Ooh. Self-love redefined was birthed out of pulling that girl out of the corner. Forgiveness leads to self-love.
Yeah.
But God said, you're redefining it. You're redefining it. I had to learn how to look in the mirror, because I didn't think I was beautiful. I didn't. And in that whole process, it's like, I know I look decent, but I never just flat out looked in the mirror and just was like, girl, you know.
The first time I ever told myself I was beautiful was last year. First time.
Listen, I told you, you're beautiful. I had to take sticky notes and put the sticky notes all over the mirror and tell myself. I had to reaffirm myself every single day. I had to say, I am beautiful. I am confident. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am enough. I am loved. I am loving. All of those things every day, until I believed it.
I do mine in my notes on my phone.
Oh.
And so at night before I go to bed, I change them up every so often. But I say it at night. I wake up at midnight. I speak it again. And first thing in the morning, I speak it again. So I speak it 3 times, those specific times. Sometime during the day, I have to remind myself, but I have to redefine. I have to reprogram. I have to renew my mind. And what happens is, I have to go back and tell that little girl stuff that she never knew.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go tell that 20-year-old me things that she never knew. I have to tell the 25-year. I have to tell the 39-year-old stuff that about her that she did not know. Go back and tell her, hey, what you were saying to yourself was disrespectful. It wasn't other people disrespecting you. It was you it was the way you was talking to yourself. So I had to relearn how to talk to myself and how to respect myself. And there's some things that, especially as women, and I say it all the time, as women, we'll go and we encourage other people and say stuff or whatever to them, but we put ourselves down internally, or we demand respect from everyone else, but we talk to ourselves any type of way. On the inside of in our minds, we talk to ourselves any type of way, and then we're wondering why we're battling with depression and anxiety and fear and low self-esteem and self-rejection and stuff. It's because of how we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
To learn to redefine by how you said, do your sticky notes, whatever method works for you. You have to learn to tell yourself something different than what you've been saying.
Yeah. And I tell you too, sometimes we define ourselves by our mate because we lose ourselves.
Yeah, in them.
When you lose yourself in somebody, where are you?
Yes.
Where are you? It took me so long to figure out what I liked. After that divorce, I had to figure out what I like.
Yeah.
Like my husband now, whatever I want to eat or whatever, I don't care. He don't care. That's his mate. I don't care. Whatever. And it's like he put a lot of majority of my needs before his. Well, I say most of them. I'll just go ahead and say it because he always say, "I listen," and that's the thing right there. It's it's like night and day. Of God blessing you with your husband. When your husband is a blessing and you're covering, and you finally realize that God had taken us through a restoration period and everything, and sometimes he has to break us to remake us. And I'm thankful for him
like
being
an orthopedic. I learned that from my daughter. Like an orthopedic, they have to break the bone and reset it.
Yep, realign it. Yeah, but I tell you, I'm sorry, I had said something about like you were asking about writing it in the book or whatever. I have a chapter inside of a book that's getting ready to be released. It's not me, it's not my own book. It's an anthology that I was a part of, and I can give you the thing for like pre-orders or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we would we would definitely like to know the information because that is real. I mean, it's real. It's every day. In the meantime, so especially once the book release come out, can you tell people how they are able to connect with you? Because I'm pretty sure you will be promoting the book as well. So how can they connect with you?
Well, my website is selfloveredefined.com. selfloveredefined.com. It is, and you can also email me there as well. I will be starting my a group coaching on December the 3rd. So if you're interested in the group coaching, for the self-love redefined coaching.
That's not right.
Self-love redefined.
No, that was right. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes.
But sometimes we can find ourselves in the midst of this, and just some people don't want to do one-on-one. They don't want to, and they don't want to feel like they're the only one. And if they see other people that are able to open up, it helps them to heal, and everybody can just heal together.
Yes.
It's so much.
You don't feel like you're in it by yourself.
Right.
And so that is another thing. So it does help. So listen, please please reach out to Dr. Wendy Banks Rhodes and on her social medias, but also go to selfloveredefined.com so we can get more information on self-love redefined. That way we can stop finding, especially women, we oftentimes we find our identity. I'm trying to end the show, but it's not working. So that way we can stop finding our identity in who we are as a mother. We find our identity in a mother. We find our identity in a wife. We find our identity in a career. And at any moment, those things can be up and gone, and then you're lost because you don't even know who you are. You have to find yourself by the things that have happened to you and by the titles that you have. And at any time that stuff can go away. So I do believe self-love redefined group coaching is seriously needed. It's seriously needed.
Yes, ma'am. And for the book, it is bit.ly/lit stage, LITSTAGE, lit stage, because the book is lit, leaders intentionally trailblazing, but I just lit, LITSTAGE, bit.ly/lit stage, LITSTAGE. And that's for a pre-order for the books.
I might have to have you put that in the back channel so I can get that up properly.
Okay.
Let's see.
I'll have to lower that.
Let's see. Yes, like this has been an amazing interview, and I hope everyone has gotten something. We're going to put that website up on how to order books so you can at least get a chapter of the story. Is there anything else that you want to, or what do you want to leave the people with on today?
Listen, what I want to leave with people today is that God loves you so much that he gave his only begotten son. We hear it so much that he gave so much for us. Yes, he did give a lot for us. He gave everything for us. Even Jesus tried to fight going to the cross, just like we fight our healing sometime. But he bore it all just for us to heal, just for us to be who it is that God called us to be. Even though we can see to the corner, God sees around the corner and he knows what's ahead just for you. You owe it to yourself to heal from the inside out so you can truly know who is inside of you, who is guiding you, and what it is that you are ordained to do and who you are designed to impact. There's so many lives and there are people sitting back just waiting for you, just for you, because of what you went through. Everything that you've gone through, God uses every bit of what you've gone through. You are not your trauma.
Amen. Thank you. We truly, truly thank you. It was a pleasure sitting and talking with you today. No, it's supposed to be somewhat of an interview, but this just felt like a good conversation. And look, I'm sorry for those that wanted us to continue going on, because I promise you both of us probably could have continued to just sit and talk.
Right.
But we are coming to the end of the show. So Dr. Wendy Rhodes, thank you so much for coming to the show. Anytime that you want to come back, please come. And we would love to have you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Amen. Amen. And if you would like to come on the show, you are also welcome. The way that you can do is go to www.ferventlycreations.com. We are looking to interview or sit and talk with anyone that is in and that is a Christian that is in business, whether you're an author, whether you're a singer, whatever it is that you are doing in the kingdom or outside of the kingdom, please come talk to us. And I mean, because we believe in networking. What we always say, networking is not about just connecting people. It's about connecting people with people with ideas, and people with opportunities. So I truly thank you for coming. Before we leave, I do want to invite you to go to the website on, let's see if we can get that flyer up. If you can go to the website where we are doing an anthology call. We are calling for all authors now. You can go also to the website where it says www.ferventlycreations.com. Go under the tab where it says author call, where you're able to contribute to our next anthology called Prisoner of War in the Mind. And with that, you will get a chapter in the anthology. Don't have to worry about your writing or if you spelling words right. We will have your chapter edited. That is part of it. You get promotion graphics. You'll get a group coaching session, which will tell you exactly how to write your chapter for those that need help writing their chapter. So this is the part that's good for you if you're a first-time writer. So you get a group coaching session. You get also a coaching session on how to brand yourself, and also how to get your investment back. How do you market? How do you do this stuff? So as well, you also get TV and radio show guest opportunities, not only my show, but another show, magazine opportunities, and you get a chance to write along with some best-selling international, multi-international authors as well. It does say speaking engagements on the flyer. However, all of those slots have currently been taken up, but we do have a conference that is attached to this, and we will be putting more information out about the conference as soon as we get close to the date. And so I just thank each and every last one of you for coming out and visiting and sitting with us on today. Thank you, and tune in next week for our next episode. Have a great day.
My team rap Jesus. We about to go far. My team rap Jesus. My team go hard.